Talk ZB.
3 minutes away from 8. Prime Minister is with us ahead of his departure to China. Good morning to you. So just quickly tick the boxes. So China, you want specifically what, if anything?
Want to broaden out the trade relationship, and that focus particularly on red meat, tourism and education. Otherwise, primary industries going gangbusters. Tourism's actually coming right across the country, but we've got challenges in China and Australia to get those numbers back. So a big focus on those two things.
How delicate is the dance, given all that's happening in the Indo-Pacific and the Americans, etc.?
Yeah, look, I mean, as I've talked to Premier Lee and President Xi before, there's huge areas of cooperation in this relationship. It's an important one, long-standing, vital, all that good stuff, mature. But also we do have differences and we raise them, and so we'll talk about those differences inevitably around different issues in the region and around the world, frankly.
So it's a large delegation that goes. Will deals be signed?
Yeah, absolutely. There's some good work that's been going on in advance. You've seen us announce yesterday around some visa changes to make those Chinese visitors in Australia much easier to come over to New Zealand. So there'll be a series of 11 or 12 announcements.
Did I, or dare I suggest that it was several months ago I did raise the Chinese situation with you, and that we might want to be a little more friendly towards the visa application system?
You are such the oracle, the oracle of Auckland, or whatever you are.
I'm just practical, and I'm just wondering why it takes you so long to do that sort of stuff.
No, because so if you think about the package we announced yesterday, we're saying, look, we don't want to have to get your translation of your forms certified, which is what was happening before. We've got some dedicated support going to travel agents up there. We're simplifying the web sort of stuff that is needed. But most important, we're saying, look, there's a hell of a lot of Chinese visitors that come from Australia. They do both countries at the same time. Why would we put them through a whole process again if it's good enough for Australia, like we saw in the Cricket World Cup when I was actually in New Zealand? That was the first time we did that joint sort of trans-Tasman sort of visa type approach. So look, it's just common sense, right? And so it's just about packaging it up, getting it done, and if there's more stuff to do, we'll continue to do that.
NATO and Europe, anything tangible or not?
Two things really. One is to sort of reinforce the trade side. We've had $1 billion extra of exports to the EU since the FTA came into effect last year. It's up 28%. Our exporters done a good job. So it's about bilateral speed dating with all these leaders in one place. And then also as part of the IP4, which is the Indo-Pacific 4, Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, it's about understanding insights from Europe, Atlantic region and the relevancy to Indo-Pacific and how that deals with that. So on defence and security bits as well.
We need all of that because the manufacturing read that came out on Friday is now gone backwards. Of all the things that was going well, and last week was a good week, I thought, for the country for all sorts of reasons, but that manufacturing's been expanding. Now it isn't.
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, it's been spluttering is the way I described it to our guys.
But it's at least been expansionary.
Yeah, it has been. But I think things like investment boost will help a lot. When as people start to think about tipping capital equipment into the manufacturing or advanced manufacturing that's going on across the country. That's been well received, actually up and down the country. I've been into a lot of small manufacturing businesses who plan to buy different machinery that often is much more productive than what they've got. So let's hope that works really well. And then continuing to expand market access. So that's sort of two things we can do for them.
Okay, 27,000 people more are on a benefit in May. That, once again, is not a good read for the economy. What's happening?
No, that's not good. In terms of, we've really dealt with, we're trying to get spending under control, which gets inflation down, gets interest rates down, gets the economy growing. That's good. But the last bit, the lag effect is the unemployment piece.
Yeah, but that part fell apart. So your theory was you've got your spending under control to a degree. Inflation is down to a degree.
Yeah,
we're at this point now stuck.
Well, no.
We've run out of puff. I can't see where the economy is growing. Outside of dairy and forest, all that stuff we talked about last week, we now appear to be, that theory that April, May was a problem, but hang on, the latter part of 25 will be fine, doesn't seem as real as it once did.
Yeah, I mean, we always knew unemployment's the last bit that has to come right after those first four bits. And so, we've been forecasting that it will peak in the middle of the year and then start to trend down in the back half of the year, which is, as the economy continues to grow. But I just say to you, look, it is going gangbusters. You come out of the primary industries, and you look at, double-digit growth in some of our sectors has been amazing. Tourism is coming back. Yes, we're pulling up the Australian and the Chinese numbers. That's what this is about.
Is it really coming back at 86%, 86%, stuck at 86%?
But what I mean is that we've got growth in the American market, the Indian market and tourism. Yes, Australia and China are the two that we're working, but even the Australian's starting to move forward. China's a big chance this week. It's been at 60%. So we've really got to step that up. And then I think, things like the investment boost, and low inflation, lower interest rates, all of that is going to encourage people ultimately to invest.
Okay.
Yes, there's uncertainty in the world, and that's been a bit of a concern for people in April with the tariff announcements. But, post the budget at the end of May, I think, we've got some things that actually catalyse that growth.
Do the Reserve Bank need to, and I know they're independent, I get all of that, but do the Reserve Bank need to do some more? If we're stuck in the middle of the year, do they need to do some more than, because they're sitting there going, we're in the band, we're okay.
Well, I mean,
when we're not.
Yeah, inflation's in the band. It'll bounce around a bit, but it's got to stay under 3%, which is where it needs to be. And they'll make that assessment as to whether there's further rate cuts to come. I mean, we should be doing everything we can to keep a downward pressure on rates, and that'll be their call.
Okay. Two things I learnt last week. One was the public service. You've only cut 2,000 people. For all that noise of you hoeing through the public service, you've lost 2,000 people out of 64,000.
Yeah, so
what were you doing?
Well, a couple of things there. One is, if the trend had continued, you'd have 8,000 more. So we've actually stopped that, and We've pulled it back. There's a net 2,000, you're right, that have come out of the system. But the bigger issue is, which is what we've talked about, is actually taking the resources we've got and making sure it's damn well focused on the front line and also delivering better outcomes. So if you want to go hire 700 more corrections officers, that's what we've done. If you want to go hire more IRD folk to go after tax avoidance, which we know there's huge return there, then that's a good thing. OT's had problems in the youth justice facility, so we've put more resources into that. So when we've been saying we're investing in frontline services to focus on delivering outcomes, that's where that's going.
Okay.
So it's a bit of shuffling of back office to front line.
So you would defend it. 2,000 is fine as long as the efficiency is better, and the efficiency is better.
There's more to do, but the way to get the performance right and to get the organisations right-sized is to focus them very clearly on what they have to deliver. Right. And they should be large service organisations that think of the public of New Zealand as customers, and they should be crystal clear. If you look at what Simeon's done on healthcare, we're really cranking in to say we want outcomes and results, and we're going to lead you into that space.
Well, that was the other thing I learnt last week, and I don't know why I didn't know it, but we had a surgeon on who is this public-private thing, and you're putting a lot more operations.
9,600 operations through, right?
Brilliant. And I'm thinking, I'm asking this guy, what's the ideological problem that people have with putting, who cares and that's fine.
Exactly.
I said, well, what's going wrong in health? He says, well, anything that looks like it's going past 4 o'clock operationally it gets pulled. Yeah. Did you realise that? If they're looking at, is this operation going past 4 o'clock? Is it, we'll probably delay that till tomorrow. What's that about?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how they organise their schedules. I thought a lot of doctors did everything in the morning and did their rounds in the afternoon to check on how the surgeries are gone.
But doesn't that concern you if that's true?
Well, what concerns me is just that you've had when Labor came to power, I know you don't want me bashing up on the other guys, but there was 1,000 people that were waiting for elective surgeries. Now, when we came to power, there's 27,000. So it got worse, right, by 27. And then you get this ideological conversation about, you can't use resources sitting there in the private hospital system. Well, the private hospital system is very efficient at doing knees and hips and cataracts and hernias and all that stuff. So Simeon, coming on as a new minister, said, right, I'm going to do, I think, 9,600 extra elective surgeries. He's done 90% of it in the private hospital system. And why wouldn't we use that capacity? Because when you're lying on your bed looking up at the ceiling, you don't really care whether it got done in the private system or public hospital, because we pay for it anyway.
Imagine how many more you could do if the public health system didn't start wrapping up at 4 o'clock.
Well, that may be true. So I'm sure if that's true, we'll find out about it.
Other thing was, my tech guy was round at my house on Friday fixing some stuff.
And restart, Mike. And blue screen of death, was it?
And he said to me, why do we still have 10 days sick leave? And I thought, that's quite a good question. Yeah. Why do we have 10 days sick leave?
Yeah, well, there's some changes coming through on workplace relations, which Brooke is leading through.
So we had 5 sick days until Jacinda decided we needed 10.
Correct.
For COVID. COVID's now, can we agree that it's gone?
Yes. It's
and
just
therefore we might need to
practice.
Do something about sick leave.
We might need to. We might need to do things about pro-ratering sick leave as well, because people who are on part-time contracts getting full-time 10-day equivalency. So Brooke Van Velden's working through some of those issues.
When are we getting an announcement on that?
I can you do this to me every frickin' week.
I'm sorry to hold you to account. My sincere apologies. I just thought you were running the place.
There will be. I just can't remember the date off the top of my head.
So an announcement on sick leave is coming from Brooke Van Velden.
There was a whole bunch of workplace relations stuff, as you've started to see. There's also stuff on health and safety, and in the mix in there is sick leave and stuff. Yep.
Fantastic. Have a good trip to China.
I will.
Are you going to join us next week?
I am so committed. I'll be there at 1 a.m. in the morning.
No,
I think Mitchell's with me, and I think Mitchell will be
this time next week. Where will you be?
I think I'll be in Belgium.
There you go.
And
it's 10 to 9 at night. You'll be just going out for a little aperitif. You'll be able to give us a call. No worries at all.
Yeah, that's just commitment from me and Mitchell.
Yeah, all right, I'll be here. You'll be there. Good on you. Nice to see you, Prime Minister Christopher Luxon. 13-2.
If you're responsible for the finances of your company, you'll know how critical it is for your